everyone, I'm the Panda Planeswalker here, and today I've got a question for you guys. Is paying 4 mana too much for that spell? You just not think it's worth it? Well, if your answer to that is yes, then I've got news for you. You're probably a red player. And if you're a red player, you probably remember the last time that red by itself, or mono red, was competitive was really around the time that Magic Origins was in standard, when we had Goblin Pile Driver, Swift Spear Monks, Titan Strength, that kind of stuff. And, well, I've got good news for you guys. I have a deck list here called 2 Ticks Red that I got from MTG Goldfish. This deck costs under $40 to build, and it's competitive enough to win FNM and even a PPTQ. How do I know this? Because I took it to FNM and a PPTQ. I got in the top 8 on PPTQ and top 4 at FNM. But if you go to the MTG Goldfish website, it'll show $30. So why am I saying under 40? Because I have my own altered version of this that I use from my local game store. And I'm going to share the deck list with you guys. Now bear in mind, this is mono red, competitive aggro deck. Your mana curve is 3. That's literally the most costly spell you'll have. And if this is something you want to run, continue watching the video. If not, hey, go look for something else. But anyway, let's get right into it. First, we'll get started with the mana base. Cheap as possible, it's just 19 mountains. There's really nothing else to it. Okay, next we're going to move on to the creatures. We'll start with a play set of Bone Mat Courier. Early game, this little dude with haste can swing for a small amount of damage and be a way to get some gas in case you whiff and draw just lands. But it will also be a major target for removal by your opponent, so try to keep 1 mana open if possible so you can get the full benefit of this card. Next we'll go with the playset of Village Messenger. The original list had Falcon Wrathgorger, and while I do see the benefit of a 2-1 for 1 mana, a 1-1 with haste that can become a 2-2 with menace on turn 2 is much faster and stronger in my opinion. Sure, you're going to be flipping it over back and forth a lot, but still, a 1-1 with haste to me is more advantageous than 2-1 that cannot swing on the turn it comes out without a buff. Okay, next we're going to go with 4 Blood Rage Brawler, a 4-3 for 2 that only requires you to pitch a card. It's a freaking huge swinger in this deck. Next we're going to go with 3 Borderland Marauder, which, yes, it is standard legal because it was pre-printed in the 2016 Welcome decks, and any cards printed in those decks are considered standard legal. Honestly, this is just a great 2-drop. It just buffs itself up anytime it attacks. Okay, then we're going to go with 4 On-Crop Smasher and 2 Reckless Bushwhacker. The On-Crop Smasher is great because when it comes out, it already has haste, and you can exert it to stop your opponent's one creature, for instance if you're playing Aetherworks Marvel, from being able to block. And then we have Reckless Bushwhacker. The guy has haste already, but you don't really want to pay his regular mana cost. What you want to do is hopefully on turn 3, if you didn't get that On-Crop Smasher, but you have a Bushwhacker, play one of your 1-drop burn or buff spells, then Surge in Bushwhacker, give everything you got haste, and swing. Not to mention it gives it a nice +1/+0 buff, so that's great as well. I did veer off a little bit on the creatures, simply with Soulscar Mage. The only reason why I did this was because at my local meta, it's mostly Aetherworks decks and Pummeler decks. Basically, if it's got energy or it uses Aetherworks, it's probably at my meta. So, what I decided to do was instead add 2 Harsh Mentors, simply because once the Mentor is out, it basically makes your opponent become hesitant to try and activate any of those abilities or really try to do anything to help start anything. Especially if by turn 4 or so, when that Aetherworks deck comes out, you've probably already got them on the ropes, considering that this deck can deal 15 damage by turn 3. That's no joke. That can honestly happen. The reason I run these mentors, again, is because that's how my meta is set up, and that's what this deck tech is for. It's to show you the deck that I use at my game store. Okay? Now, we're going to go into the non-creature spells. Now, the non-creature spells for the main board are the exact same as the original list. Playset of Built to Smash, Shock, Incendiary Flow, and Cartouche of Zeal. You know, your basic burn and buff spells. Okay? The sideboard has been tweaked a bit to match my local game store as well, running a playset of Lightning Axe instead of just the 3 for the occasional Gear Hulks, Digraph Colossus, and basically any other big things that I can take care of. Running 2 tiers of Valakut for Abyssin, Glorybringer, Heart of Quran, really any flyers. Running 4 Magma Spray for Scrap Heap Scroungers in any deck that can recur creatures, or really anything that I just need to not hit the graveyard. Running 2 Destructive Tampering for artifact removal and to create a path for my creatures to hit. Running 1 extra Harsh Mentor in case I need to put more pressure on energy decks and any decks that really run heavy on activated abilities. And finally, 2 Sweltering Suns. While it may seem like a slow burn spell, it is invaluable against tokens and aggro decks. As of right now, this deck costs about $36.24. That's what I priced it out on TCG Player. So it's just under the $40 price range. This is a cheap, competitive, and easy to pilot deck that you can take to FNM and a PPTQ and do pretty well at. And remember, this is still a rogue deck, so this really hasn't hit a top 8. It's not really been noticed yet, so there really is no specific sideboard strategy against it for these other decks. And I guarantee that if you take this to FNM or PPTQ, you'll do pretty well. This has been the Panda Planeswalker. Hope you enjoyed this video, and don't worry guys, expect a few more of these soon.